think we are live. So according to this, and then, so what I'm going to do now is just as, like I said, I have my backup plan of if something happens that it disconnects from Facebook, that I have a backup. So it is now being recorded through Zoom as well. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my cheat sheet so that I can actually introduce you. So welcome everybody to Monday Whispers Chat. So my name is Rollie Allaire and I am with Bridging the Gap Wellness. And so Bridging the Gap Wellness is all about being able to create holistic life and helping women find balance. So each week during Monday Whispers Chat, we feature an amazing, inspiring woman. And so, so in this week's Monday Whispers Chat, I'm introducing Zooey Strong with Wild Emerge, Freedom Through, so she's talking about, so Wild Emerge, that must be your business name. Sorry, I guess I should have clarified that before I started talking. So Wild Emerge, Freedom Through Self-Healing. And she's actually going to be sharing about releasing trauma and forgiveness. So so she realized not too long ago that she was simply doing things because she thought that that's what she was supposed to do. She was angry, bored, and just generally unsatisfied with her life. When she started to question the status quo and push the boundaries of expectations, her already toxic relationship became very dangerous. Her partner, whom she thought had supported her wholly, became very verbally abusive and physically violent. She's since emerged from that situation, shed her old skin, and become a brighter, more vibrant version of herself with so much to offer. So knowing her story isn't isolated to just her story. She hopes that her experience can lead others to a brighter and more vibrant future. So tonight, Zooey is going to share how to start before you're ready, overcome trauma from a societal conditioning and toxic relationships, using forgiveness to heal, freeing yourself from your own limiting beliefs that you've adopted from others, resentment and fear. So welcome, Zooey. So Zooey, I'm going to ask if you can, is there anything in that description or in that introduction that we've missed? And so can you tell me a little bit more about yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here, mostly because this is going to be fun. It's a good learning experience. And one thing I kind of want to clarify, as Rollie was talking about, I have a brand name, and you could say I have a business. It doesn't really exist yet. This is one of those starting before you're ready things. So I took kind of a giant leap before my business actually existed. And it's more about like I'm creating this business, this Wild Emerge, because I've emerged from a traumatic situation, a few traumatic situations, and I'm still healing. I'm still going through this process. So all of the things that I'm doing in my business, I'm going to put that in quotations because it doesn't end yet. It exists as a part of like my own self-therapy and stuff that I'm going through. So, I don't want to come at it from the viewpoint of like the all-knowing expert or professional. Those exist and they're great and they're wonderful. And I'm so glad that we have them. But I think also that it's important to, do some things for yourself and maybe do some things from the perspective of like a peer. We're going through this together. This is a journey that we're all on together. So that's kind of more where I'm at with my business. Eventually, the plan is to have all sorts of these things already set up, after I figure out what works to fully emerge on the other side of this situation, then I'll be able to offer that to other people. But right now it's still really exploratory and just kind of figuring out what tools and practices and processes that I can use to heal myself. And then once I know, we can share that with everybody who needs it. So that's not really about me. That's about my business and where I'm going, I guess.
But that still is about you, right? So that is part of who it is that you are. It's part of your journey. It's part of, and like I said, I should have asked that when we were actually chatting on Friday. I wasn't even thinking until we were typing, until I was actually sharing it. And I'm like, oh, is that her business? Let's just ask. So thank you for clarifying that. So that is awesome. So thank you so much. And one of the things that, that I know that often happens is as we're actually starting out and as we're creating our own life and we're finding who we are and finding ourselves, we tend to think that, oh, well, I don't really have a business yet, or I don't really have this, so it's not really part of my journey yet. But it is. It's that those processes and being able to start. Anybody who started a business didn't just wake up one morning and say, okay, I'm ready to go. Right? So they had ideas, they had plans, they had experiences, and some people over, you're much younger than I am, so some people have actually gone through different cycles of their careers and where it is that they're coming from and what it is that they're doing. So so my careers first started off working as a legal assistant, and that's like way far from where it is that I am now, right? So I did that. I went back to school. I've continued with my education. I've worked for different agencies, and now I'm running my own business. And part of it is being able to share the experience and the knowledge and the wisdom that comes from women like you. So thank you very much for being able to take time and being able to share your story with us, and being vulnerable, because this is definitely vulnerable. Right. So here you are sharing with all the world to see about a little bit about who you are, where you're going, what's happened, and how those experiences have actually impacted you and what's happened. So thank you for sharing that vulnerability with the world. So I am honored that you are taking this time with us. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. It is really scary. I know we talked about that on Friday. It's really scary. It's definitely something I'm glad I'm doing, though, because as you mentioned, one of the things I really wanted to talk about was starting before you're ready. And this is not at all something I felt ready to do, but I felt like if I don't do it, if I don't put myself out there, that, business that I have that's just an idea right now, it's not ever going to be anything unless I do something. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, but it has to be something.
Well, and the thing is like I said, that's not necessarily where your idea is right now, is not necessarily where you're going to end up in 5 years from now. It may have shifted and changed dramatically. Maybe it may not. Maybe you're going to be able to, you're going to be one of those people who start exactly where you're starting, and then it's going to continue to evolve from where you're at. But most of us in the entrepreneurial world that I have discovered is that we start off with an idea, and where we end up is completely different than where we thought we were actually going to go. And not because we didn't have a good idea to begin with, but because it just evolves and it just grows legs, and it kind of shifts and changes. And so for anybody who's been following me for a while, friends, family, and followers know that things have shifted for me on even just in the last 3 years. That 3.5 years that I've actually been, that I've had Bridging the Gap Wellness, and coming out and being vulnerable has been something that that has been scary. And being able to share my own experiences is not something that, because I'm trained in mental health and addictions, and as part of our training, it's like, oh, you can't share with the rest of the world what it is that's going on with you, because you need to be the professional who has this professional image. And I don't think that I've taken away that professional image, except for that that I am human, and I have a life, and I have things that have experienced and influenced the decisions that I've made over the years. And so definitely where you're at now in terms of showing that vulnerability is certainly not something that I would have done back then in my age. Like when I was your age back then, I would have never done that. And I know that I would have never done that. So takes great courage for you to be doing this and not waiting all these years later to be able to share. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey, like what's happened, or like what points do you think is really important for people to know?
So I'm not really good at specifics. I've tried, there's a course by Simon Sinek, and he said, on finding your why, and they want really specific stories. And I'm like, well, I can tell you what happened to me in general. So, I've never really known what I want to do. But I've always had this feeling. I was actually talking, to my spiritual coach. Her name is Haley. She should be on. So hi, Haley. And I love her and she's amazing. I was talking to her about my childhood and how I always kind of felt like there was supposed to be more. And I felt like that my whole life. Like I've gone from job to job to job because I get bored and I get complacent and it just never feels like enough. So I guess I would say what brought me to where I'm at is, amidst one of my job hops, I ended up doing B2B sales, which was super fun. It was really scary, but I learned a lot of interpersonal skills and a lot about kind of pushing my boundaries. We're going into businesses we've never been in before. I'm not quite 5 feet tall. So you've got this short little girl walking in, demanding to talk to the owner of the business to sell him a cell phone plan from like T-Mobile, which was not a good cell phone plan at the time. So I learned a lot about just doing it. And I'm really glad I had that experience. And that's also where I met my ex, my current ex, I don't know. And I really liked him. Truth be told, I still really like him, but we've only been separated for a few months. So that's still something that I'm transitioning through. We got together. It was kind of a dramatic start. If I'd maybe listened to my instincts and been a little better at setting boundaries then, things would have gone very differently. But that's where I was at the time. And for a short period there, we were in a really good space. We kind of had that white picket fence, little happy family, one baby, another on the way, both of them crying in the other room because they can hear me talking and they're stuck with the babysitter. I guess as I've heard it said, my paradigm just kind of shattered. All of a sudden he was unable to work, and first, we're like, boom, here's a second baby. I know your first one's only 3 months old, but here's another one. And, all of a sudden he's unable to work, and then I have to work. And, I'd been kind of working part-time here and there, but I've got the baby. And so we went from having like a really stable, happy home life to like, okay, it's time for triage. What do we do? Here's a plan. I'm big into plans. I make plans. So that didn't really work. It wasn't really sustainable. We ended up moving in with my family because, he was really sick and unable to work. And we lived with them for a period of like 4 to 6 months. There was a very extreme dramatic blow up between him and my family. And I kind of got caught in the middle, and I was like, okay, I'm picking a side and sticking with it, So we moved. I moved with him into his family's house. We had our second baby, and we lived there for about a year. And they're very conservative. They have a very set, structured way of living that was different for me. And I'd always been kind of like, I always wondered, like, like I said earlier, I just want to know what else there is, because I never have quite felt fulfilled. And so I just started to research. And for a long time, I decided in 3rd grade that I was an atheist. I had no idea what it meant, but I went to a Catholic school and I was like, nope, I'm gonna do what I want to do. Um, so I just went with that pretense, you know, and it really helped because I was kind of an angry person for no real reason. I still don't know the reason. There, it might be in there and I just haven't uncovered it yet in my journeying, but I just was kind of an angry person. And it was like, you know, I didn't really have anyone to blame as an atheist. So then it was like, okay, it's easy to believe in a being in order to have someone to blame for how angry I am. You know, and that didn't really work for me either. So then it finally occurred to me that maybe I should just try not being angry, which sounds super easy when you say it, right? It's not.
That's where that expression "easier said than done" comes from, right?
Exactly. Oh my gosh. But I just started researching, and you know, I found this pagan religion. I don't really view it as a religion, but everyone I talk to does. So it's like, fine, I'll pander, but we can call it a religion if that makes you feel better. And I really liked it because to me it wasn't pagan. It was more about the earth, which I mean I guess can be classified as pagan, but it was more like a farmer's religion because it centers around, you know, the different seasons and when the crops are ready. And that's been a big thing in my life. I love nature. I love being out there, and it helps me feel at peace. It's one of the few places where I do feel like, you know, maybe this is enough. Maybe it's okay. I feel connected to everything here. And I don't have to worry about, you know, what other adventures are happening in the universe because I'm okay right here. So, you know, I just kind of started looking into it, and my ex's family is very religious. And they're very set in their ways, and anything outside of the normal, you know, they're very, what I mean by structured is they're very much into gender roles. So, you know, mommy stays home with the babies, daddy goes out and works, brings home the bacon kind of thing. You know, and that's never really worked for me. I'm a very independent person, and, you know, my ex at the time wasn't working. So it was kind of like, I don't want to live in the basement forever. So if somebody's got to work and it's got to be me, that's cool. I can make it happen, you know? And was not at a place in his life where he was okay with that. You know, he wasn't feeling like he could work, but he also wasn't okay with me working. You know, and then I started to feel like, well, I also want to push this religious and spiritual boundary. I kind of want to push these societal norms and see what else is out there. You know, like this may be TMI, I'm okay with it. But, you know, I kind of experimented with like, maybe I don't need to shave my armpits. Maybe I don't need to wear a bra. You know, maybe I don't need to shave my legs. Maybe I don't need to, you know, a really good friend of mine who I hope maybe is on, hi Michaela, if you are, did my hair, and she gave me these amazing, beautiful dreadlocks, which I'm going to call fairy locks because they were black and purple and they were beautiful and awesome and really heavy. But she did an amazing job and I loved them. And he was like, what the heck is going on? Like, who are you? You know, and so understandably, he's like, you know, his whole world has just changed and I haven't really communicated it. Because I didn't know, you know, I was like, hey, I feel like doing this today. I don't know what's going on, but I just want to try something. I want to try new things, you know, and, he did his best to keep up with it. He really did. And, you know, unfortunately it wasn't what he wanted. It wasn't what I wanted. And he was at a space in his life where that manifested very negatively. So I don't really know where he's at in his life right now. We don't have a lot of contact other than exchanging our kids every other weekend or so. But I'm hoping that maybe this opened up the door for him to do a little bit of self-healing too, because since I've been on my own, you know, I've been seeing a counselor. I've been doing a lot of self-development on my own through books. And I've been working with a spiritual coach. You know, so I've been able to open up a lot of doors that I just didn't feel like would be possible And I've always been really independent, but I have this newfound sense of achievement. You know, I pay for my apartment by myself. I mean, I did have a little bit of help from family when I first moved out, so I can't, you know, credit where credit is due, especially in case they're watching. Sorry, mommy. But you know, now I pay for my apartment by myself. I changed a flat tire on the highway yesterday, 90% all by myself, you know, and these are things that I feel like I needed to do. And that it just wasn't going to happen while I was in a relationship with anyone. I forgot what the original question was.
You're doing great. So just going with your idea. So cool, there's no right, and that's one of the things that I shared before, is that there's no right and wrong. It's about being able to have a conversation. And so I'll take the second while you're trying to regain your thoughts with letting people know that we have 3 people that are actually on live right now. We'd love to hear from you. So if you actually have, so please at least say hi, let us know that you're there. We see the eyeballs, so we know that there is people watching, which is awesome. But really love you guys to be able to just hop on and say hi. If you are a friend of Zoe's, I know that she would love to know that you're actually watching. So please let her know that you're here. And so kind of in the interruption into the little breaks, then I will I'll read off whatever comments that anybody has, whether it's comments or questions. And even if what you're doing is popping on to say hi, I'd love to be able to just know that. So because I know that is definitely, as somebody who's on live for the first time sharing her story, that it would be nice to be able to know that somebody's actually watching and sharing. And especially, like I said, if friends or family of Zoe's are on, it would be great. So one of the things that I did while you were chatting, because I think a couple of times you probably saw me typing, unless you were just not even paying attention to me, is that I shared onto your personal page. So
cool.
So okay. It's actually, I've never done that. So this is the first time, because like I said, like, the whole thing, like I do share it later, but I never share it while I'm actually on live. So like I said, this here whole platform and changing things up is a learning curve for me. And so some days technology works great. Other times it's like, I don't know how this is going to work. And so I shared it onto your page, because one of the things that I try and do is tag the person that I'm interviewing, but it wouldn't let me tag you. So I'm like, okay, well, there's a share button. Let me see if I can actually do that while Zoe's talking.
Yes, so that's awesome. What popped in my head was go big or go home. Let's do this.
So, well, you would have been tagged in it eventually anyway, so people would still see it. But now it's actually shared to your page. So whether or not, depending on how your settings are, it may actually already be on your page, or or you'll have to accept it later. So, but either way, I've put it out there. So new dimension for me. So.
Yay, awesome. I'm so excited about that. I think this is great. I'm going to turn on a light really quick because it got dark really fast in here.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, look at that. We can see you.
I know. I'm like looking at my reflection like I look like a ghost.
So, yeah, I don't know what your weather is doing, but we are getting freezing rain. So we've had like tons and tons of snow, tons of cold. And so right now it's actually freezing rain. So that's, I'm not sure what things are like where you are, but it's similar. It's pretty crazy.
I don't know if it's freezing. It was so crazy. So like we had this crazy like blustery storm that I swear was, I have a second story apartment. I swear it was gonna like blow my apartment right off the building. And then the sun came out. And then I got home and it's like the sun came, my kids got called out of daycare early. They're a little sick. I swear the sun just came out for me to go get them and come back home, and now it's storming again.
Nice. Well, at least it opened up for you to be able to go get your kids. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, it was great. It was great.
So, hey, Mimi, I'm glad that you're actually on. So, and like I said, there's still 4 other eyeballs. So we know that there's other people watching. They're just apparently voyeurs, and they're not going to let us know that they're there. So, so please let us know that you're there. We'd love to be able to hear from you. So, So some of the question or some of the things that was actually really interesting based on the things of being able to discover yourself is that whole identity that you actually had to go through, right? So you had people who are very much religious, and you've grown up from a religious background, and you've completely shifted and changed from where it is that you like, because these are some of like who you are at a core, right? So when we
Yeah.
grow up at a certain, like, so growing up Catholic, so I'm Catholic as well, and so like that's that whole piece of shifting and changing. And I know that so I use a lot of moon energy. That's my thing, is that I trust and believe in the energy of the moon. And so I had somebody who is religious that had asked me one time, it's like, oh, so like why do you say grandmother moon? And it's like, well, because it's that respect of like grandmother moon, mother earth, father sky, like all these different things that are there. And so and I don't think of it as anything bad or wrong, or I know that it's not necessarily part of our religion or the way that things go, but I don't necessarily I don't want to offend anybody who's Catholic, because I love each and everybody and their religion. But growing up Catholic was that it's all about that guilt, and like you're going to be condemned if you don't follow exactly the way that that we believe and what it is that we think that needs to happen. And I don't believe that there's a God or a spiritual being or like whoever that higher power is condemning. Like it's all knowing and all loving and all caring. And so so I would just learn to be able to kind of just shift with that. And so I don't necessarily follow Catholic practices. Actually, I can't even say sort of, because I don't follow Catholic practices anymore. I'm still very respectful when I go into the church, if there's a funeral or if there's anything like that. But, and so I still follow the processes, and I still follow the things that I actually grew up and believe, because there's still parts of those that I incorporate in my life. And so, but I'm very open to what other people believe. So like, unless you're actually bringing in, like calling in some evil stuff, and like you're actually doing voodoo dolls and things like that, it's like I'm very open to what people believe, because, and one of the things that I do a lot of Aboriginal teachings as part of who I am and who it is that I've actually been kind of moving towards. Not moving towards, it's something that resonates with me, and that I've been learning for the last 10, 12 years. And so the teachings that I've had is you take what you need and you leave the rest. So in terms of my spirituality, I don't necessarily only follow Métis practices or Aboriginal practices. I follow whatever it is that my heart says that I should be following. And so some people agree, some people disagree. And so definitely understand where it is that you're coming from with that. And so, so thanks for sharing that. So
yeah, I love what you said about grandmother moon. I don't call her grandmother moon, but I always look for her when I need her.
Well, and she's the dark moon today, so we're on new moon. So so she's very dark. Had to drive to Kirkland Lake, which is an hour away from where we are, early this morning, and it is like dark, eerie. So so Haley is on. So Haley says, "Hey Zoe, I just figured out I can comment. Yay!" So my favorite so she says, my favorite shift that I've seen in you in the short month of knowing you is that you've opened up to healing and moving forward. Do you want to speak to how you've started to forgive those that have hurt you in your life, and what shift in yourself you've noticed since feeling this symbolic opening?
Haley, you're so bossy.
Great question though. Awesome.
I know, she's so great. She's always challenging me. And she's always available when I need her. I'm like, should I move to this house? And she's like, I don't know, what do you think? And I'm like, okay. So I just really I've noticed I've had a really hard time finding home. We've moved a lot. I feel like I've moved a lot my whole life. You know, and there's always people that I've just been angry at, and not really known why. And doing some of this like introspective work. You know, she had me look at my inner child and send healing to my inner child. And that was very weird to me. I'm like, who thinks about their childhood, right? Like, what? That actually happened? I thought that was a dream. But you know, and we've you know, officially in her program, we did it once, but it's a tool that she's given me to think about, you know, like, why am I feeling this way? You know, why do I feel like I don't have a home? And you know, all of a sudden that inner child will pop up in my mind, like, hey, do you remember when you were like going back and forth to mom and dad's house, or when you guys moved from here to here to here to here? And you know, like, maybe that has something to do with it, and maybe there's some healing that you can send to that inner child. And that's really helped me, especially this week. We're working through our root chakra. So this is my bedroom. And it was so funny. It was almost like psychic. So before I actually read the assignments and workbooks and everything that she gave me for the root chakra week, I went out and I bought some stuff for my house and for my room. You know, and then we talked about it, and she's like, oh my gosh, that's what I told you to do in your workbook. And I was like, really? I haven't even read it yet. And so I did, and I rearranged my whole room, to make space for all the things that are important to me. These girls better be on because I'm showing their work. But my friend Michaela actually did 2 of those paintings. And the long image at the top are some aura drawings I had of me and my kids, from Jaden. I hope Jaden's on or can watch later. She's got little ones. And you know, I've got this I bought this actually this weekend. If you can see it there, the dream catcher is like my favorite thing ever. So, and I've got, it really helped me, just the act of like, it helped me decide like, okay, this is the place that I'm going to stay. You know, and this is the place that I'm going to make my own until, you know, my lease is up. And just kind of going through with that intention of this is where I'm going to feel settled actually helped a lot. And a lot of that, like, I was kind of angry at my parents, and I didn't really realize I was angry at my parents. And I honestly still don't really know why, but some of that anger has like kind of dissuaded now that I've just decided that I have a place that I can make my home. And that's like a very specific example. But, you know, just kind of realizing also that, people do the best they can in the spaces that they're in. You know, and that's one of the things I realized about my parents. And I think we all need to realize about our parents, because they're, you know, we never do 100% right by our kids. And realizing that about my ex, you know, he's like, there's certain behaviors that just aren't excusable. And you have to set boundaries, but also part of being able to forgive people, and something that Haley's taught me is to, like, just understand that people do the best they can where they're at. And sometimes it's not very good, but they're always getting better. So that would be my favorite part of what I've realized so far. We still have several more weeks to go, so I'll have to come on again when we're done and share everything.
You know how to find me, so that would be awesome. So one of the things that that I really liked, what it is that one of the parts that you like, I really enjoyed what it is that you said overall completely, is that whole sense of being able to feel that sense of belonging, right? So that root chakra is definitely that, of being able to have that sense of belonging and that sense of security. And by you creating that safety for yourself, to being able to have, like, so your room is your space, and that is your sacred space, because the rest of the apartment has 2 little munchkins that are running around that is not always the best. So my oldest one is actually going to be 24 tomorrow. So but I remember what that was like when I had an 18-month-old and a newborn, and it's like, this is crazy. Right. So just being able to, hi, Sandra. So just being able to have that place where you can actually say, this is my safe place. This is what it is that I actually have that is helping me connect with myself. And so one of the things that I loved that you said is that, so Haley gave you these homework assignments that you didn't even get to read, but that you actually trusted your intuition to be able to find things to be able to make that your space. And to be able to, so without even knowing that these are the things that Haley's going to suggest, is that you are actually able to tune in to yourself and be able to find the things that actually resonate for you and that work for you, and that you're able to trust your intuition, because that is something that that we struggle with as women. And this happens to most of the women that I have worked with. So I've worked with women since 2001 in my practices of working with people with mental health and addictions, and in domestic violence, and critical incident stresses, and like a whole lot of different things, and then my own personal life. And it's about being able to trust that, right? So setting boundaries was one of the things that you actually said that you had worked on, and that you, it's like, no, these are not acceptable. These are not boundaries that I'm allowing anybody to cross. And but being able to trust that self, that part of yourself that says, no, I'm not okay with that. And even you stepping outside of and connecting with your own spirituality, despite the fact that not everybody agrees. And so some people will find that connection with their spirituality in a religion, and which is why I said at the beginning, like, not saying that there's anything wrong with any of the ones that people find, and whatever that religion is, and whatever it is that that helps you connect, is that those pieces are really important. And so I am so thank you very much for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that you're stepping into that part of trusting yourself. And so being able to connect with that intuition. We already know so much of what works for us, and we tend not to step into that. And so yay, Zooey, so excited. And so I can feel that energy, and I can feel that that love of yourself. And through, I'm not sure what program that Haley has, but I'd love to know more about her program. But that's not your role. So we'll let Haley, if she actually wants to be able to share a little bit about, in the comments, she can share what it is that she does, and or she can hop on a Facebook Live with us. But it's being able to have those parts of you, and being able to share that, and being honest with yourself despite the fears of, because it has to have been fearful, right? So despite the fears, what other people are going to think. And like, now I'm a single mom, I've got 2 little ones at home, we're trying to work through that whole separation relationship. And one of the things that I heard you say is that going back and forth between mom and dad's home, your kids are now living something that you were already living. So when you actually talked about parents do the best that they can based on where they're at, we are parents and we are not perfect. And there's still so many things that we need to be able to do, but you loved yourself enough to be able to still take those steps that were necessary and become that, hey, Renee, and take that step of being on your own, and being within yourself, and trying to figure that out and sort that out. And so many women stay within the fear of like, what are people going to think? What are my friends going to think? What is my family going to think? What is society going to think? And you were able to step out of that and move forward. So yay, Zooey, that is so awesome.
I think one thing that's really important is it's not just a one-time thing. And I know you know this, but I feel like it really has to be said. Deciding that you're going to forgive somebody, or that you're going to set these boundaries, or that you're going to trust your intuition. All of these things that we're practicing, it's a really constant practice. Because I have these off days where all I want to do is, blame my ex or my mom or my brother for, everything that's gone wrong. And it's like, okay, you have to consciously make this decision to, the same decision that you may have made yesterday, and the same decision that you want to make tomorrow, where you're going to practice forgiveness. So you're going to practice trusting your intuition. That one's a big one for me. I have to decide that several times a day. Same with setting boundaries. You know, it seems like every person I come into contact with, there's a different boundary that needs set, and it needs to be set in a different way. So it's just a constant practice. It's never a one and done.
And that's one of the things that you are going to, over the years, and because you're already open, you're already working through that healing process, is that, and I can guarantee that this is going to happen later on down the road, whether it's like 2 weeks down the road or whether it is 10 years down the road, you're going to say, I thought I worked through that. I thought I had already overcome that. And why am I facing it again? And so that forgiveness piece and that whole learning piece is all about having layers. And so each one of those is being able to peel off a new layer and allowing yourself to be able to get into that deep. And because you're starting at such a young age of being able to start that healing and starting that process, is that you're actually creating practices that allows you to be able to do that, right? So, and so even over the years of being able to do all that healing and doing the things that I needed to be able to do, and you come to a standstill sometimes, and it's like, okay, life is good, everything's going perfect, or at least so it seems at the time, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, here's a new adventure. Like, now where am I going? What am I doing now, right? So, and or it takes you back to where it was. Your little ones are really little right now, but at some point they're going to look at you and say, I hate you. You're the worst mom ever. I want to live with my dad forever, right? Because that separated home thing always seems to come up. And it's not necessarily something that you are doing specifically, but being able to set those boundaries and those limits and being able to let them know that they are loved despite the fact going back and forth is something that that you're going to be able to instill in them, so that they're actually going to be able to learn setting those boundaries for themselves and being able to take that time. Like, you created your space within your room that allows them to be able to say that they see that this is my space, right? So this is my space. This is where I need to be. If I'm having a bad mom moment, I can actually go into my space and just reground. And that is one of the things that by you having a sacred space, and that's what I'm going to call it. I don't know what you call it, but having that sacred space, that this is your own space. This is the space that you need to be able to do to be able to reconnect. My sacred space is my bathtub. And so that is where I can actually, I'm very fire energy. So being able to climb into my tub and being able to, the water just helps me ground. So, so I can, being connected with nature and that kind of thing is great. And that is helpful to be grounded. But even being outdoors doesn't necessarily ground me the same way as it does when I can actually submerge myself in water. And so my bathtub is definitely my sacred space. So much so that when we did renovations, my dad helped me find this I'm only 5 feet tall. So you're a little shorter than 5 feet. I am only 5 feet. Exactly. And so like, my tub is like so my tub is like a 6 foot tub, and it's like super deep. And so my dad helped me find a really good deal on the tub when we renovated. And it's like that. So it's like, oh, I could just completely soak in the tub and just submerge myself. And whether I'm in there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or I prefer to be an hour, a couple hours, just reheating the water and just being able to just be there with a book or meditation or whatever it is that I need to do, that is my space. And so kudos for you for being able to find that and connecting with that. So what are some of the things that you find the most challenging in your experience, and the things that you've actually overcome, because you've overcome huge obstacles? So what are some of the biggest challenges that you think might be helpful for people to know?
Most of my challenges are very internal. And this is I'm going to give Haley another shout out, because another thing that she's been preaching is that preaching sounds condescending. Sorry, Haley, that's not how I meant it. But one of the things that I've heard from her is, once you decide something, the universe is going to challenge you to see how much you really want it. And it's only been like this last week, actually, that I've been able to hold on to that. You know, so the best example I can think of, I was so excited I started to cry when this happened. It's not really that big of a deal, but it was so exciting. But I decided that I was done with this scarcity mindset. I was like, you know, I pulled a card, it was a gather, and it's like, let that ish go, girl. Like, you're done with that. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna let it go. You know, and as soon as I decided that I got this huge kickback. The universe was like, that's right, that's what you got to do. And then it was like poking me, like, are you sure you want it? Are you sure you want it? And I was like, I'm good. It's seriously, I felt kind of like, you know, those commercials with those kids are kind of like, I'm not touching you. And I was like, I'm letting go of the scarcity mindset. I'm letting it go. You know, and what really helped me solidify that was just remembering the universe is going to keep challenging you to make sure that that's what you've really decided, to make sure that you're not going to back down, to make sure that you keep putting that positive energy out there so that it can give you all this positive energy back. So those challenges, most of mine are mindset. And just kind of falling into old habits. But that has actually really helped me change or start on the process to change a lot of those mindset challenges that I have to overcome.
Well, and it's really interesting how we actually have how the universe pops in and says, hey, this is going on, or this is happening, or and the universe gives us all these signs. We don't always listen, right? So whether you call it universe, God, whatever it is that you want to call it, like there is a higher energy or higher power out there that actually is helping guide us to where it is that we need to be, and we don't always listen. And so sometimes those messages come in loud and clear. And so it's really funny that you're talking about pulling this card, because I had a group coaching session today, and in the group coaching session, the two of the women that were actually in the call today, they were both talking about like these messages that they keep getting, and it's like, okay, well, I need to move forward on this because like I keep getting the same message. And so one of the ladies, she was actually doing a 7-day challenge of card pulling, and I don't know what the purpose of it was, because I'm in that group, but I really didn't pay attention to what the instructions were, just because I was busy with my own launch for the women's conference. So I just knew that they were pulling cards, and I knew that she was specifically pulling cards and sharing what it is that her card pull was. And so when we were chatting today during the group coaching session, I said, okay, so where are things at with the card pulling? What messages are you getting? What is that intuitive hit that's happening? And it was that very much that, right? So it's like, keep hitting me over the head with the same message. So she said, I stopped pulling the cards after like day 4 or 5, because she kept getting the same kind of message. And I'm like, you're getting the same kind of message because that's what you're supposed to be listening to. That is that intuitive hit that you're supposed to be connecting with. And until you start following that part of the path, or that part of the plan of the messages that you're supposed to be, of what it is that you're supposed to be doing, exactly like what it is that you're saying, it's like it just keeps zonking you over the head. Like, right. Hello, do you hear me yet? Because like I'm talking. And so one card that that I kept getting for a while, and it was about a year ago, and the same messages kept coming back up again, and I'm like, okay, I'm tired of hearing the same message. Can you guys give me a new message? And so it was like, whether somebody was giving me a message, or whether it was somebody that was pulling a card for me, whether I was pulling my own cards, or whether I was actually getting messages that were actually coming up on Facebook or in my email or whatever, like all these different messages all kept saying the same thing. And until I finally said, okay, I surrender. Okay, I'm listening. It was like, and one of the card messages kept saying, we're talking, but you're not listening. And it's like, you need to be listening. And I think it was an archangel card that was coming up. And it's like, we keep knocking, but you're not letting us in, basically, is what it was saying. Right. So just that part of like really being important of being able to tap into who we are and what it is that we're doing and what is the message that we're supposed to be hearing, right? So so Haley actually shares. So I would love to share the program Zooey has been going through with me is called She Rises. It's a 9-week journey of reconnecting and rediscovering self, moving up through the layers of one's life. Each layer inspired by the major energy centers. The final 9th week is taking a leap on her new journey and rising in to her inspired life. I'm so excited to see where you are going, Zooey, and so proud of you today.
Oh, so thanks, Haley.
That is awesome. And like, it just really warms my heart that Haley actually took the time to be able to, so as your leader still came in and took the time to be able to be here. So that that really goes to show Haley's integrity of being able to support her tribe or her connection or the women that are in it. So thank you very much, Haley, for being able to do that. So that is so awesome. So
excited and so grateful.
So what are some of the so if somebody is coming up with the situations that are going on with them, what would be your feedback to them? What would be, so like if somebody's like, okay, well, this is the path that I want to be able to do. Either I want to be able to get out of this relationship that I'm in, or I want to be able to take that leap of faith and start my own business, or I want to be able to stop what it is that I'm doing and go back to school. Like, what kind of, when those fears are coming up, what would be your advice to them? What would you say to them?
So what is working for me is doing it anyway. The biggest theme that has come up for me through this conversation is, do it before you're ready. And that's, I mean, I started this business, I have this Facebook page, and honestly, it's so far not going anywhere. But it's going to eventually, but I started it. And that's the point. That's the scariest part. It's up, it's running. You can all go like it if you want. Being here on this live today is super terrifying. Sharing it anywhere is super terrifying. But I did it, and that's a part of my healing, a part of my process. And there's some amazing things that are going to come out of it. I definitely wasn't ready. And before our talk on Friday, I thought there were a million things that I had to do to prepare. I did not one of them. Because of our talk on Friday, it made me feel a lot better. And I think actually not preparing made me feel a lot better. And that's coming from, I'm super planner. Like, I plan everything. I have a whiteboard, a written calendar, a Google calendar. I manage other people's calendars. Guys, I'm a planner. I am good at planning. It's just, there are things that you have to do before you're ready. You're never going to feel like it's the right time to leave a relationship. You may never feel like it's the right time to start a new relationship. You're not going to feel like it's the right time to start a business. You're not going to feel like it's the right time to quit your job that's like sucking the life out of you. You're probably never going to feel like it's the right time or the perfect time or you're 100% prepared. That's just not a thing. So my advice would be to do it. And if that's really terrifying, my advice would be to find a friend who is like crazy as hell, because they're going to tell you to go for it. Don't do anything that endangers your life. Don't do that. But these big ventures that have that great potential that come with some risk, just do it. Because I don't know, one of the things that really motivates me is thinking about, myself at the end of my life, or thinking about, what my kids are going to say to me after I die. And if it's going to be like, my mom never really did anything, or my mom worked all the time and she was always mad. Like, that's not how that's not how I want to remember my life. And that's not how I want my kids to remember my life. You know, I want them to say like, oh my gosh, wasn't it crazy when mom tried that? Jeez, what was she thinking? Like, so, I mean, if you're not ready to just do it, then find somebody who's going to give you that extra little push or that extra little edge of confidence.
So, and that is great advice. Like that is super. And so, can I share a little bit about the leading into the call from last Friday? Like, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I would love that.
So, so I was actually very fearful that Zooey was actually going to just bail, because she says like, so do you have a series of questions for me? And I'm like, no, I don't have a series of questions. So we actually have a just general conversation, and she's like, oh, well, I want to be able to be prepared. And like, I'm really nervous. And all I kept thinking is, oh my gosh, she's going to bail. She's going to bail. It's like, hey, I do not work on Fridays. How about we actually schedule some time where you and I can actually jump on and we can actually have a conversation. So I explained a little bit about how Monday Whispers chat interviews actually started, and how everything, because I am a planner. I like to be able to have everything kind of all my ducks in a row and everything happening the way that it's supposed to. Then I would have technical glitches, and I had different things that were going on. So now I have a plan A and a plan B. So I go live, and hopefully it all works. And if it doesn't, I actually record on Zoom, so that if it doesn't go live, then I can upload it afterwards and not have to worry about the entire interview being disappeared and not have anything going on. Right. So, but it's that whole part of that conversation and stepping in before you're ready. And that's exactly where Zooey was on Friday, is just, and just trusting. She has no idea who I am. I don't even know how she found me. Right. So it's like she signed up in one of the posts that I had actually shared about being able to do this. She signed up, and I'm like, oh, cool. This is really awesome. And so, like I said, I don't even know how we found each other in the first place, which is really cool. And so, so people will say, well, I don't really know whether or not I should be actually jumping on your live or being able to do these things. And I love the fact that Zooey did it before she was ready. Like, I have no idea. Like I said, I have no idea how she came across me in the first place. And she signed up, she booked in, and all was good. And she's here, and she's sharing, and she's being vulnerable, and she's just being human. And as women, that is the reason, that is the whole point of Monday Whispers chat, is even if it is not something that I necessarily follow or believe or whatever, it's not about me. Somebody else that may be watching may be able to hear that part of the message that is really important. However, I do believe very strongly in the things that Zooey has said. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there, that there isn't anything that she said that I'm like, oh no, oh my gosh, anything about Zooey. but like, that's the whole point, is that we actually have our own viewpoints. We have the way that we actually do things. We have the way that that we see things. And so I'm just one person in billions of people in the universe. And so my viewpoint is only this big. Zooey's puts in that amount as well. And the things that we actually have together creates the universe, creates this world, and allows us to be able to be who we are and to just be. And can I share something about your name?
Oh yeah, sure.
So just before hopping on, I when I was actually getting prepared, I'm like, hey Zooey, so Strong, is that like is that a real name, or is that a name that, because sometimes when we actually have our own spiritual journeys or whatever, we sometimes will change our name so that it actually fits where it is that we're at and what it is that's going on. And so she's like, no, Strong is definitely my name. And so one of the things that I'll let you share, because it's your story. Can you share your whole name? Like, I just think that this is so cool.
So my middle initial is B. And I actually changed my name. So when I was younger, it was Krista B. Strong. And now it's Zooey B. Strong. So that's been my whole life message, is be strong.
So, and that is so cool, right? So here is this woman who is going to do great things at being able to inspire other women, and being here today is definitely one of those parts. That's one of those stepping stones of whatever it is that you've said today. There is somebody who's listening that, and whether they've listened live or they're actually coming back on the replay, there is something in your message that you will have at least touched one person. There's going to be at least one person that something that you've said has resonated with them, and it's going to help them take that next step forward and to be able to step in and be strong. So Zooey, be strong. So thank you so much, Zooey, for taking the time, for doing this with us and being with us today. And I am honored. Like I said, I don't even know how you found us, how we connected in the first place. We're obviously in a group somewhere that you were actually able to see my post, but it's fascinating that that we're able to do that. So thank you so much for doing that. Is there anything that you want to be able to share or that you want to add to before we sign off?
I think we covered it all. Can I share a little bit about my Facebook group? Because I do want to grow a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I shouldn't say I'm not above shameless self-promotion, but I don't think it's the only way to go. So like I jumped on here as a part of my own healing, process. And I have to say, I feel really like it was a huge step for me in doing things that I wasn't ready to do. And also inviting people that I know. It seems scarier to invite people that you know than to invite people you don't know.
And then I shared it to your page on top of that.
That's okay. I'm good with, again, if we're going big or we're going home, right? But so the whole point of the business, the Facebook group that I'm starting is to go through these things together, to create a community. And what I'm doing in my Facebook group, or what I will be doing when I get more than my best friend in there, my poor best friend who's saddled with all 3 of our kids right now. I'm going to do monthly challenges where we're going to do, challenge is a strong word, but where we're going to have, like a 10-day challenge on setting boundaries, on exercises, information on setting boundaries, healthy ways to do that, how to set different boundaries with different people. Or we're going to talk about forgiveness, and we're going to go over the Hawaiian Ho'oponopono prayer, which you should Google that. I don't know how to spell it, but if you type in Ho'oponopono, it'll come up. And like 10 days of forgiveness or self-forgiveness, or 10 days of letting go so that you're open to receive. So, once we start getting enough people in there, we'll start doing these challenges, and then we'll be able to go through this self-healing process together, as a way of support and a way of community, and a way of being together through these hard things in our lives. So if you want to go like my page, there's the link on Rollie's event page, or join my group, I guess is what I should say. So that's what it's there for. But again, this is a huge part of my healing. And eventually someday I'll get to the point where hopefully it can be a huge part of the general you, whoever you are, can be a big part of your healing too.
So thank you very much. So what I'm going to ask you to do is because it is on the event page, but I'm going to ask you to go into the comments and put the link in so that people can actually find it. Oh, and so Lisa actually says, thank you for sharing your story. So thanks for watching. And hi, Lori, who has just jumped on. And so thanks very much for being able to do this, and definitely share your link. And for those of you catching the replay, then #replay. And hey, Maggie. So Lisa says, I have been pondering about making a Facebook page. You will grow, and I will join your group. Yay! So thank you. So definitely be able to, I lost my train of thought. So like I said, this is not a perfect thing. This isn't about having everything scripted. It's all about being able to be au naturel. And so, but but just being able to go through and find the things that work for you. And thanks so much for being able to share that, and look forward to seeing your group grow with more than just your best friend in it. Thank you, best friend, for caring for the kids today, and for being her one and only guest at this point, but more to grow. And so, like I said, the message that you've actually put out there is that something in what it is that you said has touched someone, and Lisa has actually shared. So that it's definitely made a big difference, and starting before you're ready is huge. And so thank you very much for being able to share that. And I am so excited and so blessed that you were actually able to join me. So I will, so thank you everybody for joining us. And we will talk again on next week on Monday Whispers Chat with a new guest. So I will talk to you later. Bye for now. And so nope, it's still on live. So apparently we're not going off live. Apparently we're going to be staying on. There's those technical glitches that I was talking about, right? So I haven't had this technical glitch for a while.